Hello, I'm Agatha Thrash, a staff physician from Uchee Pines Institute. We have a topic for you today that's a very common one. Probably the commonest thing that doctors hear about in their offices is that of allergies. Allergies and various autoimmune problems. And so we'd like to talk with you about that, and we hope you'll join us.
The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented. Welcome to Help Yourself to Health with Dr. Agatha Thrash of Uchee Pines Institute. And now, here's your host, Dr. Thrash.
We have such an enormous number of chemicals and pollens and fumes and foods and dyes and a lot of things, fabrics, that we can react to. And so the human body often does that very thing. What it does is to look at something and see if it recognizes it as a part of what it has had. And if it does, then it is happy with it. And if not, then it may react to what you have just contacted. Now, this kind of thing, reacting to something in your environment, is quite common. In fact, many people today are what they call allergic people. They react with such things as hay fever, with skin rashes, with gastrointestinal problems, with aches and pains, with fatigue, with depression, and a lot of other things that can be said to be a problem with an allergy. Some people can't sleep because of allergies. Some people have flu-like symptoms because of allergies. What can we do about these allergies? Well, we have a number of things we can do. One of the allergies that we don't often think of as being an allergic phenomenon is that of arthritis. And it isn't so in all instances. But certain cases of arthritis do seem to have a basis in food sensitivity, especially the rheumatic types or the rheumatoid types of arthritis. We have often found that if we eliminate the nightshades, these individuals will have much better opportunity to be pain-free. They may also recognize that their joints, which have been swollen and tender, will be less swollen and less tender if they remove certain things like the nightshades. Nightshades are tomatoes, potatoes, eggplant, and peppers. These foods contain a number of alkaloids, which can be irritating to some people. I like to explain it in this way. Of course, it isn't exactly this way, but it's like walking through these little sand spurs that you might find in Florida near the beaches, which get on your clothing or stick in your foot. These sand spurs are little packages with thorns sticking out all around. And when you walk by, they are very ready to stick onto you. And since they have little barbs on them, they don't peel off very readily. And so with a sand spur, you can carry them sometimes, if you don't notice them, you can carry them in a seam of your clothing for some months before you recognize that it's actually there. With these alkaloids that are present in certain foods like the nightshades, I like to think of them as being like sand spurs. They attach themselves or fix themselves, as the allergists say, in the joints on some of the tissues, and they sort of stay there to irritate and to poke into the person and cause them to have pain and inflammation. Staying off the nightshades for a period of time, say some months or even a year, can often do wonders to make the person feel better. Now, nightshades aren't the only foods that can cause a person to have painful joints. Soy products are also quite common as allergy producers or arthritis producers, and some people have a sensitivity to wheat or to all the gluten grains like rye and barley and wheat and and other grains that contain this very large protein that we call gluten. Now, gluten and the nightshades and soy are just members of classes of foods that do not have any particular claim on allergy production, but they are unique in that they probably cause more allergies than most other foods. Now, there is a type of arthritis that is not allergic, which we call gout. Gout is caused by the buildup of uric acid in the tissues and in the blood, which comes from purine metabolism. You may not have heard of purines as a part of foods, but purines are often associated with proteins. So foods that are very high in proteins, especially animal products, tend to be high in purines and tend to have a metabolic end product called uric acid. As the uric acid builds up in the blood and in the tissues, sometimes the uric acid will crystallize out. And we're going to show you how to make a charcoal compress and actually put it on somebody that we're going to tell you has gout. Now, with gout, the foods that are the highest in the purines are liver, kidneys, brain, heart, sweetbreads, mussels, anchovies, sardines, meat extract, consomme, gravies, fish roe, and herring. Now, many of us don't eat any of those anyway, but then those that have moderate levels are some other seafoods, and all meat, and all fowl, yeast and lentils, whole grain cereals, beans and peas and asparagus, cauliflower, mushrooms, spinach, and oatmeal. Those have moderate quantities. So if you tend to have gout, you want to leave off all these foods as much as you can. Then those that have negligible levels are vegetables and fruit, many cereals, and many cereal products. So as you tend to leave off these foods, that makes your gout tend to get better. But let's say you're in an acute flare-up. You have a big toe, which is often the part of the anatomy most severely affected. Your big toe is swollen and painful, and you want to do something to bring the pain down. So I've asked Melissa Thrash if she will show you how to make a charcoal compress. Charcoal compresses are not difficult to make, and Melissa's been making them for quite a while. So Melissa, would you show us how to make a compress, and then show us on your friend Shannon Jenkins just how you apply it?
Okay. Often people will add flaxseed to their charcoal compress because it helps it to gel better, but it's not absolutely necessary. You can use either the whole flaxseed or you can use the flaxseed ground. And the ratio for flaxseed is one part of the flaxseed to 4 parts of the charcoal. So I'm going to demonstrate here by just spooning out some charcoal.
1, 2, 3,
and 4.
And I can see that that's a very light powder.
It's really, really messy. And then you can add the flaxseed, whole or ground, into the charcoal and mix it up. And it's, as my grandmother said, it's really, really messy and it tends to get everywhere. And so I already mixed them up so it wouldn't make a real big mess. But you just mix it up with enough water to make it into a thin paste, and not really runny, but just a nice paste.
Yes.
And then you're going to apply that to a porous material such as a paper towel or a thin cloth or a napkin or a handkerchief or whatever you happen to have that's porous enough that it'll go through, and just spread it over it.
Sort of like putting peanut butter on a piece of bread, isn't it?
Sort of.
Sometimes when the charcoal is made up, it is very thick. So you want it not to be so thick that you can't spread it easily.
Okay. There should only be one layer of material between the charcoal and between the skin that you want to put it on, because it's not to be a barrier, it's just to contain the charcoal. Okay, Shannon, we're going to put this on your elbow. And we're going to wrap the plastic around it.
This plastic is not a part of the treatment, it's simply to contain the charcoal. As Melissa said, charcoal can be quite messy and it can get over a lot of things. And it is also to keep the charcoal moist. It will help with that quite a lot, and that's very helpful. And I suspect you're going to want an ace bandage. There you go. The ace bandage is put on lightly. Its purpose is simply to hold the bandage in place, the compress in place. So it is simply wrapped. And the way to wrap an ace bandage is overlapping it about 1/3. And then it just, it functions in this instance merely to hold the compress in place. So once she's got it there, then she can attach it with the little fastener that came with the ace bandage.
There we go.
And how long does she take that on, leave that on?
Preferably you could leave it on all night, but you don't have to leave it on all night.
Yeah, if it's in the daytime, she could leave it on just a few hours. All right, thank you, girls. I appreciate that, and so happy. I'll let you take the charcoal because it can be spread from here to outside. And this as well, so that we aren't liable to get any of that on us. It's really quite a liability. Now, we have a variety of things about immunity that we need to understand. And to understand this, we need to know some things about white blood cells and how the body produces certain of its important products. So I've asked Dr. Wynne Horsley if he will assist me in helping you to understand about this matter of immunity. Dr. Wynne Horsley, who is a staff physician at UT Pines, and he will now tell you some things about the immune system.
Thank you, Dr. Agatha. You've introduced it, that the real heart of the immune system is the white blood cell. And in this issue of whether it's allergies or these autoimmune diseases you're talking about, we're talking about the immune system. And perhaps first it'd be worthwhile to look at what does it do that's good, since it sounds like it's being bad in these things.
Yes.
It'd be worthwhile to think about that white blood cell, and I think maybe visualize it.
All right.
Could I put it on the board?
Well, yes, I wish you would. That will help.
The white blood cell, I guess we'll outline it in black, but the inside will be white.
Very good.
As all the cells in the body, you have a membrane around it. The white blood cells are very different from the majority of blood cells, which are red. The red blood cells are like robots. They don't have a nucleus. They're just cargo ships for oxygen. But the white blood cells have a nucleus with all the nuclear material that there is in the body, directing things. And I'm going to take one of the lowest class of white blood cells, what's called a neutrophil, and what it has is a lot of little granules in it. These granules are filled with a hypochlorite type of solution, which really is essentially bleach.
Yes, that's very powerful.
It is. You know, I heard a talk once by an emergency room physician who emphasized that a bleach injury, if a person gets undiluted bleach on their hands, it's much harder to handle than a strong acid injury.
Is that right?
So here we have the white blood cell. Another name for this neutrophil is a polymorphonuclear cell. And off here we're going to say we have a germ, a bacterium, which is an enemy that we want to get rid of. And it is very good at doing this. The very first thing that happens is that this white blood cell has the remarkable capacity of being able to recognize that this is a foreign object. Now you may think, well, that should be easy, but let's keep in mind there are little cells in our own body. I drew this little purposely because most bacteria are smaller than the white blood cells, but we have tiny platelets that are there in the blood. And there are so many structures in the body. How does it recognize which is supposed to be there and which is not? Well, it's an amazing endowment that, in fact, we could say that it is trained in a college that does this. We should really compare the white blood cell system to an army because it functions very much like that. In fact, there are different levels of the soldiers and officers in it, up till generals, and they get training in what you could call the military college of the body. It's a gland that's located behind the breastbone, so we can't feel it or be aware of it, and it's actually rather small in adult life, but in early childhood, in infancy, it's quite a large gland. And what it's doing is it's training these white blood cells to recognize everything that is you when they're in you, everything that's in me when it's in me. It's to recognize what is oneself. And when they've graduated from the college, they're well trained. So as soon as it sees any object, it quickly checks, sort of like computers do on a credit card. Is this an approved or an unapproved object, person? And so if this bacterium, as it shouldn't, it would not pass the test, then it's automatic fight. And it's trained like a hit squad that goes after hijackers of airplanes. It then shows another of its amazing capabilities. It's able to move. It's able to swim right through fluid or actually even go through soft tissues. It will come right over to the bacterium and then go ahead with its destruction. So I'm not going to redraw the whole white blood cell. I'll just draw the bacteria right next to it here. The next step is putting out some arms as though we're going to give a loving hug. But the following step is not a loving hug. It is consumption.
Yes.
It's now inside, but the story isn't over yet. It's now encapsulated inside the white blood cells membranes, but now all these little granules come into action. They come with their bleach, with its powerful destructive action, and they're dumped into that little space, and that bacterium is history. Well, that's obviously an important function.
Yes, and it's important also that those little granules don't ever dump their bleach until they get the germ in that capsule and they put the bleach inside the capsule.
That's very much so. And
it may have taken another billion years to evolve that little feature, don't you think?
You know, it really is ludicrous
Yes.
to think that these things could have just happened.
Yes.
Now, this is, of course, just one aspect of immune function. There are other cells that have not this action, but rather a directing action or a memory action of remembering previous things. And there's a whole system of molecules called antibodies that are involved in struggles like this for getting rid of foreign objects. Now, here, in our talk today, we're getting into autoimmune disease. And the underlying problem here apparently is that somehow the white blood cells have either forgotten or gotten mixed up on what was their original training at the military college. And so they somehow, on encountering some cells or tissue of the body, consider that this is foreign.
So it's an enemy.
It's an enemy. And so then they start directing their terrible weapons right at one's own body. Those of you that remember not the present struggle in the Middle East, but one about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, the Gulf War, might remember that the main casualties, the main source of casualties among the Allies there was what was called friendly fire. And friendly fire kills just as dead as enemy fire. It's, that's exactly the kind of thing that's going on.
This is really friendly fire.
That's right.
What kinds of diseases do we have that are involved in this kind of friendly fire?
Well, perhaps one of the most commonly known ones, would be rheumatoid arthritis. There's actually quite a long list. We could name a couple of them. Lupus, I think many people have heard of. Other ones are less well known. There's an inflammation of the thyroid, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and the list goes on. There's even one type of diabetes where they consider that it's because of an autoimmune problem that these white blood cells will attack one's own pancreatic cells, the cells that produce insulin. And of course, the person then ends up with diabetes. He won't have insulin being produced.
Well, thank you very much. This has been very helpful, very enlightening, and fascinating. I just can't imagine how fascinating these kinds of things are. Yes. Now, in addition to the autoimmune things that we might think of as being against self, we have just some ordinary allergies, and I've asked Don Miller if he will explain to you some of the things having to do with just ordinary allergies, and it looks as if you have brought some very interesting props here. Don Miller, a lifestyle counselor from Uchee Pines.
Thank you, Dr. Thrash. Allergies are very common in our society, and I think every single one of us probably has an allergy. We just don't know it because it seems like allergies are accumulative in our system, and we can handle a little bit of allergy. And it can do something as simple as cause a running nose, all the way up to faulty thinking, and quite frankly, sometimes an allergy can cause a death. I've known people allergic to aspirin, that a small amount of aspirin would cause death because they are so deathly allergic to it. But I just want to explain this idea of accumulation. Some people are allergic to fumes, hairspray, deodorant, perfumes, and they just cannot be around it. But some people are allergic, but there's no reaction in the body. So let's say this person's allergic to hairspray, but they also happen to be allergic to dogs. Many people are allergic to animals, and they have no idea that they are because of the fact that their body can handle it. See, it's an immune function that keeps us from having an immune reaction. So we've got odors in the home, and we have a dog in the home, and some people are sort of allergic to common household products like styrofoam or other types of things we have in the home, and still their bodies are strong enough, their immune systems are strong enough not to have a reaction. A good example of the fact that as we grow older we seem to become more allergic, I have never in my life had a case of poison ivy. I can go out and pull it with my hands, I can rub it on myself, I can eat the leaves, have no effect. I've known people like me that one day down in their older years, all of a sudden they start getting poison ivy because their immune systems, because of wearing out from age, start becoming, having the allergic reaction to it. So this person's quite lucky. They've got all these odors around the home, they got Fido in the home, they got all this styrofoam and other things in the home, no problem. Trouble is they're also allergic to dust. And when they're allergic to dust, that sets off the trigger. And so we just need to avoid dust, right? We can't avoid dust. Howard Hughes tried for years to avoid dust, but dust is everywhere. We might be able to avoid some simple household products, but that's sort of hard to do too. It's a little bit easier to, sorry Fido, to get rid of the dog, and the odors are hard too. So I would say probably in this case, the dog's got to go. And if we get rid of that one step that sort of built up this system in our bodies to cause the allergic reaction, then we're not going to have the runny nose, the teary eyes, the cough, whatever it might be. And I've known people who are almost debilitated by something as simple as just a dog in the home. So we search the home for what is it that we might be allergic to, find out what it is, and get rid of that one thing. and all the rest might go. And it's already been mentioned that things like milk and eggs and things are very high in allergenic properties. Get rid of those things first and work down to the point where I can't get anything out. And if you get down to that point, usually you're not going to be having an allergic reaction, Dr. Thrash.
Well, that sounds very good. Thank you so much for presenting that. And since hay fever may be one of those big manifestations, and people with hay fever can tend to get sinusitis in the frontal areas and in the ethmoid areas and in the nasal areas. And these people have a lot of pain, especially if they get a cold or if they do any kind of air travel. And so I've asked Melissa if she will show you just how to make a sinus pack. Melissa?
Okay, I'm going to demonstrate on Shannon.
Okay, Shannon gets to take the nice lie down spot.
Okay, first you're going to get some water as hot as the person can stand it, and you're going to dip the towel into the water and wring the towel out really well. You don't want it to drip and burn the patient. And then you're going to fold the towel over, somewhat like this.
Let me see that? Oh, yes, okay.
Just a little shape here. And it's going to go over the face, over the sinuses, and her nose is going to be able to stick out this hole so she can breathe.
That's nice. Makes it so that she has all of her sinuses covered and still she's able to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You leave it on for 3 minutes and then change it out and get another one and put it on for another 3 minutes and change it out and put it on another one and do this exchange maybe 3 to 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're done, you can take it off and get a dry towel, just like the one that you used that was wet, and put it on the face and leave it there for a little while to dry the face off.
Mm-hmm. And let them maybe go to sleep, and when they wake up, you hope that they'll be completely well of their sinusitis. This is a very effective treatment, and we have seen this especially for people who have the flu or people who have severe allergies with bad case of sinusitis. We have seen it work just absolutely marvels. Sometimes within seconds of heating the part of this sinus pack in place, the person is already having a reduction in their pain. Now, pain and drippy nose characterize those who have acute sinusitis. Chronic sinusitis is almost always associated also with a little bit of cough. The reason for that is that the secretions run back in the back of the throat and run down into the bronchi. We can see then that some of the things that the Lord made for our benefit and for our enjoyment at times come to be our enemies, and the body works against them. May God richly bless you.